Nothing like a nice bowl of Sean. Hello one, hello all. It's the most Walmart ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Bring Me the Horizon, Post-Human Next Gen. This is the latest album from UK band Bring Me the Horizon, which came out of the deathcore genre in the early 2000s, but also bringing elements of melodeath. And then later in their career, becoming more electronic, more synthy, more melodic, which differentiated them from most bands within the metalcore scene, incorporating keyboards. And it wasn't until Amos where they went on full-on pop and electronic rock. And I did leave that album enjoying it. It didn't make my year-end list or anything. But what really blew me away was their Pandemic EP when COVID was on the rise, which was the predecessor to this project of the Post-Human series, where it speaks on the post-apocalyptic future after COVID, or what COVID could have been. And it definitely kicked ass. The riffs are great, the hooks are great, Ollie sounds incredible. The lyrics were very creative. It was pretty much the equivalent of a new metal horror sci-fi, but brought to your ears. And their riffs are great too, which in the beginning was a huge turnoff for me with how tedious they could be, along with the cliche writing. And now we have this, which leaves me with a question. Where did all the fire go? In fact, looking at the lineup, where did the band go? Because now we just have Ollie Sykes on keyboard. Jordan Fish is no longer in the picture, which is highly unfortunate. And although I enjoyed the single leading up to this album, Amen, which is featuring Lil Uzi Vert, Daryl Palumbo of Glassjaw, which has a huge anthemic chorus, a brief but very effective verse from Uzi, with brutal vocals from both Ollie and Daryl, and kept my hopes high for this new project here. Now, honestly, I am going to try to find nice things to say about this. I'm really going to try to, but I've pretty much given most of my praises to the single, which is honestly the only fire track on here. I mean, Kool-Aid is tolerable. I do dig the cheeky, culty themes that run through here, and I don't think the instrumentation's too bad either. But does it match my levels of enjoyment of what was on the EP, on its predecessor? No, not at all. And from the starting track to every other track on here is just layers and layers and layers of this trash heap that collectively gets larger and larger as this album continues. And the smell is just immensely unignorable. Almost to a point where I don't even know where to begin. And in the past, I've had major gripes with their writing, as I alluded to before. But the lyrics here are beyond cliche. It's every cliche, every corniness of the lyric brought to 11. Now look, I'm not here to mitigate the validity of Ollie's feelings and his mental health. That is not what I'm trying to do. But when you choose the most sugary production, the most basic ass guitar lines, and the most melodramatic lyrics to push what you're saying, to push the narrative, to push the feeling, and on top of that adding some very sus bars where you're trying to make the point and you're trying to express your emotions on your mental health, my sympathy dissipates faster than Ronnie Radke doubling down on a problematic allegation on Twitter, or X. And look, I have no issue with chiptune. I have no issue with hyperpop. Obviously, a lot of my favorite albums come from there. But I feel Ollie took a swing at this, and after numerous listens, Ollie should really go back to the batting cages. Because we are getting glitches, but the glitches and effects we're getting lead to some of the most horrible moments in music I've probably ever heard, leading to horrendous breakdowns that I've probably heard on any electronic album in my life, with a plethora of riffs, grating vocals, and glitches that sound like an MK6 was involved. And everything is so compressed to death on here. It's like It's like everything is so compressed here that these moments that are supposed to be of excitement aren't of excitement, they're of annoyance. Like there's no exuberance, there's no adrenaline rush, it's just a headache. And listening to this, I'm like, this must be a simulation of what 100 gecs sounds like to people who hate 100 gecs, or even just hyperpop in general. Now, in a good deal of their albums, you could definitely make comparisons to Linkin Park, but on this album, are they even trying to be original here? Or at least interesting? Because there's numerous parts that have blatant rip-offs, like most infamously of Deftones on Limousine, which in actuality is a rip-off of a rip-off, because you have this band Mood Ring that's blatantly ripping off Deftones, and you have Bring Me the Horizon ripping off that song where they're ripping off Deftones. However, I would say on here there is differentiation between that ripoff because they make damn sure they hit every single bullet point of how to make a Deftones song, where you have that painfully identical riff to that Mood Ring song, and then just goes so formulaic, like, okay, let's get moody, okay, let's get loud, with the same dismal chord progression you would get from Chino. And you got Dark Side, which sounds like Linkin Park if they interpolated Papa Roach. No thanks. And there's moments on here where they deliver insult to derivative injury, like on NA, which, if you're in the know, you know that this chord progression is exactly from Green Day's Brain Stew, and with a mix of interpolation of Oasis Married with Children. And if that wasn't bad enough, you get possibly the worst, most disjointed, most fried, unintelligible choral vocal I've probably ever heard on a record, period. Along with other ripoffs like Lost, which is what you would get if you had Broken Side do a ripoff of any hyperpop, any electronic act out there, while also trying to do an MCR song. Which provides another horrid moment on here where they do this breakdown, and it's not even a breakdown, it's really just a bunch of flavorless, flat skips. Like, it just sounds like a record skipping. Like, it's not creative, it's honestly gross and stomach churning. And the horrendous mixing makes it just sound so robotic. Like, as I mentioned before, this thing just sounds like a shitty emo band from the 2000s sounding like AI with MP3 mixes. And I know I've mentioned 100 gecs already in this review, but the appeal of them is they take cliches from the 2000s, the MySpace era, and they actually show you how cringe it was and satirize that, and then bring nuance and make bangers out of them. But what Bring Me the Horizon is doing is embracing those cliches and making shit music in the process. That sounds immensely processed. Outside of 2 tracks, this thing was just terrible. And it really is a disappointment. It really is, because of how I felt they were slowly progressing. But unfortunately, I think they hit their peak with the EP, because Post-Human Survival Horror just seemed to me like something we're probably never going to get again. And this could be their last hurrah, I don't know. But yeah, this thing was bad. It's really fucking bad. And the thing is, like, this thing doesn't even sound like Bring Me the Horizon. This thing sounds like Ollie and Friends with shitty mixing. I'm feeling a 1.5 out of 5 on this album. If you've given this a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? That's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Bring Me the Horizon, Post-Human, Next Gen. Till we meet again.